We can now bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, great to see you. Is the U.S. now considering diplomacy once again, considering we were at the negotiating table, we had the Omanis mediating, and now we have this war that's raging in the Middle East?
I think there are several aspects to this which show a couple of things. The first one is that Donald Trump is unsure about what to do to end this war, which explains this very erratic behavior over the past few days, saying I'm winding the war down. Then there was the first ultimatum on striking these power plants, these 400 power plants in Iran, which was due to expire last night. That's now been pushed forward to Friday. I think that what we're seeing is a shift in what the US wants to obtain. That's to say, look, we don't want to carry on with this war. We're going to carry on hitting Iran. We'll threaten Iran, but we're moving more towards some kind of diplomatic opening towards the Iranians. And there's a report coming out today from Politico, which says it cites two administration officials in the US saying that the Trump administration is quietly trying to weigh up the possibility that the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, could be a potential partner in the future as someone that may be able to take over and run Iran after this war is over. So there is a shift towards this diplomacy avenue, if you like. But I think also what you have to take into account is that Donald Trump was visibly shaken up by the fact that prices have gone up in the oil market, stocks and shares. This is going to have a knock-on effect on the US economy. He is running in the midterm elections in November. He's seen his popularity poll plummet in recent times, and he knows that if there's going to be a strike on a power plant in Iran this week, that's going to certainly make the price of oil go even higher, and it will have a detrimental effect on his own possibility of coming out victorious in these elections, if that is a possibility for him. So all of this is, I think, Donald Trump trying to weigh up the odds, saying, okay, is it worth it for me to carry on in the war? What am I going to achieve at the end of the war? Bottom line being, okay, even if I come away with the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, that is something that I can say that I can use to declare victory. But whether or not that is going to be enough, that is still a question that we can't answer.
It's surprising that the U.S. president was caught off guard that oil prices would go up. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you do something in the Middle East, it's going to impact oil prices. But I want to talk to you about something Donald Trump said yesterday on the tarmac. He wouldn't tell journalists who the U.S. is having discussions with in Israel for fear, in Iran rather, for fear that person might be killed by Israel, presumably. So are the United States and Israel on the same page on how to end this war? Because the Israelis don't seem to be letting up.
Well, I think the answer to that is no, they're not. They talk a lot. That's certainly true. They discuss matters. That is certainly true. But their long-term objectives could be the same. But I think right now they are tending to widen because Israel wants to destroy Iran's capacity to be able to open fire on Israel or to launch attacks against Israel. It would really like regime change. That is something the US said it was going to work towards. Remember, right at the start of this, Donald Trump said, we will let you know in Iran when you can rise up to take back your country. You've never had an opportunity like this before. It may not happen again. Well, we're still waiting for that opportunity. The regime is still in place. But I think the US wants to pull back from this war because it doesn't want to this to drag out for months. This is something that, as I was saying, is going to look very bad on Donald Trump. It's not something that Benjamin Netanyahu would like, although he is dependent on US strength, US military fire in Iran to maintain this war. But that will not stop him from carrying on into southern Lebanon to create a buffer zone there and send in Israeli forces, and also to carry on trying to wipe out Hamas in the Gaza Strip, two of Iran's proxies in the region.